So if Ted Cruz was the person responsible for trying to convince me, if I was Donald Trump, to start a war with Iran or to invade in Iran or to help Israel bomb Iran or any of those things, to get involved in another and possibly endless war in Iran, and the person who was trying to convince me to do that was Ted Cruz, then there would be no chance in hell I would fucking pull the plug on, or pull the trigger on getting involved in a war with Iran. Absolutely not. I mean, if anybody has not seen the Tucker Carlson interview with Ted Cruz, Tucker, that's it for Ted Cruz. You know what I'm saying? The Ted Cruz is the kind of politician that can only operate as the old guard, right? As the same old status quo. This is the way Washington works, and these are the guidelines in which we play. That's Ted Cruz. And that style of politics is over because we have the internet now. So they're not going to get away with just lying their way and using fancy tropes and shit through everything from here on out. It's not working with voters anymore. It's not working with convincing citizens of the foreign policy. It's not working, right? Because people are able to fact check these people now, right? Back in the day when there was no internet and only 4 television channels that all spewed the same news, everybody kind of agreed because they had no choice because they were getting the same information. These days, that's not the case. These politicians forget about the internet all the time because they will go on national television and say something or promise something, and a week later they do a complete reversal and act like they never said the thing that they said a week ago. And that's Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz couldn't answer one fucking question that Tucker Carlson asked him. Not one. He had to dodge and weave and do the political dance around every little AIPAC, everything. He couldn't answer one question. And that's not really Ted Cruz's fault. That's Ted Cruz came up in the style of politics where the way to do politics is to lie your way through everything, deflect, you know what I'm saying, deflect as much as you can, and only tell the voter what the voter wants to hear so that they get elected. That is over, and Ted Cruz doesn't understand that. He somehow, like a lot of these politicians, seems to feel like that it's okay, that his answers to Tucker Carlson are completely justified. He should have never, I'm glad he did the interview, but he shouldn't have done it if he was worried about his own political career, because actually the mask has come off now. Ted Cruz has basically exposed himself as one of these same old, let's keep the system as it is, Republican Congress or senators, right? That has gotten elected by the seat of his pants, by being the good guy from Texas, and yeah, that people believed his BS because nothing was being checked on before, right? And like I said, that's over. Look, Ted Cruz takes money from AIPAC. Ted Cruz will not admit that AIPAC works partially, if not completely, in service of the Israeli government, right? Why will you not admit that? Well, because it'll probably piss AIPAC off if you do, right? Otherwise, he wouldn't be so squirmy about it. You know what I mean? We all know this corrupt lobbying scheme should be eliminated, right? We all know it's legal corruption. It's legal bribery. That's what it is. It's legal extortion, right? That's what it is. The politicians are being bought. And that's clear with Ted Cruz. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, he cannot admit publicly that AIPAC is in service to the Israeli government and is lobbying in America and should be registered with FARA and all that other shit, right? And it isn't, right? He just won't admit that. Then he goes to say that that the reason he supports Israel is because the Bible told him so. Yeah, that's another one of those things that used to work, right? a politician could get up and put his hand on a Bible on national television. I would love to uphold the Constitution, and I swear on the Bible, it's my guiding source, and blah, blah, blah. And that's it. You know what I'm saying? And people be like, oh my God, he's a religious guy. Well, that's great. That's very good. Well, let's vote for him. That shit, this shit, like, who the fuck's gonna believe? The Bible told him he has to support Israel because that's what it says in the Bible. Yeah, it probably says that in the Bible, right? But it doesn't say support the Israeli government no matter at what cost and no matter what they do. It doesn't say that. But Ted Cruz, with a straight fucking face, tried to convince Tucker Carlson and his millions of viewers that that is what the Bible says. The Bible says Israel, and the government of Israel, the way it is today, is what the Bible means. So, yes, he basically said, yes, no matter what Israel does, no matter who's in charge, no matter their position in the world, no matter what's going on, the Bible says we have to support them in everything they do. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's nuts, okay? Also, he wanted to be the most staunch supporter of Israel that in Congress or in the Senate, and that's what his goal was. Well, he said that, and then Tucker Carlson's like, yeah, that's great, but you want American senators, first goal to be protecting America and looking out for America's interests and not Israel first. You want America first. And then Ted Cruz had to try to backpedal that shit. And he's like, oh, but no. It was this fuck. He was stuttering and splattering all over the fucking. It was. I don't like Ted Cruz. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I get it. He's probably a pretty nice guy. You know what I mean? But I think he's one of these talk big about changing the system people, but doesn't really want the system changed, right? And that's him, and he proved that today in this interview with Tucker, 100%, right? He couldn't answer a single question, right? He gets defensive every time you ask him about Israel. He tries to say that we have to support Israel because God told us to. I mean, these people are getting more ridiculous by the fucking minute, right? It's unbelievable. And see, the thing is, another reason why Ted Cruz is basically old guard is because old guard politicians don't know how to deal with answering real questions, sitting down for hours on end, and really giving honest, truthful answers to questions they're being asked. They can't do it. They can't do it. The same thing came up, right? When asked about the assassination attempts on Donald Trump, that Netanyahu got on TV and said, well, Iran has tried twice to assassinate Trump. So then Tucker asked him the next question. Okay, how do you know that? Well, the intelligence agencies say that it's true. Okay, well, they never lie. But okay, let's assume they're telling the truth, right? Okay, so why has nobody been arrested? Well, there have people been arrested for trying to kill John Bolton. Okay, that's not what Tucker was asking, right? Tucker was asking, why have no people, if it's so sure that there are hitmen hired in the United States by Iran to assassinate Donald Trump, how can, if that's 100% for sure, why is America not attacking Iran? Good question. And why has nobody been arrested in these so-called plots to kill Donald Trump by Iran? I mean, they know there's hitmen hired. They know that Iran is doing it, but they don't know who the hitmen are, and they don't know they don't know where they are. The whole thing sounds ridiculous. Now, does that mean I believe that Iran is not trying to kill Trump? No, I think they're probably trying to. You know what I mean? No doubt. They probably are. But if that's true, why the fuck is Israel bombing Iran and not America? That's a good question. Tucker had a pretty good question. Now, I'm not really for war at all, right? But if you have 100,000% proof that another regime is trying to kill your leader, then basically that's a declaration of war. That's not America. That's America being attacked by Iran. So why the fuck why are they not doing anything about it? Well, probably because they're actually either the whole thing about Iran trying to assassinate Donald Trump is bullshit, or America is feckless for some reason. I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense. But Ted Cruz couldn't answer that question either. He's like, oh, no, he did answer it. He's like, so Carlson asked him why America hasn't already attacked Iran then. And Ted Cruz's answer is like, well, I mean, the hitmen aren't really that good. And this is how you see that Ted Cruz and all these politicians like him, the old guard, that need to be voted out, people. We need to get new people in there that understand that this system is completely fucking broken and needs to be changed from within. Ted Cruz is not on that list. He probably served his country well for a long time, and but his days are over. You know what I mean? Because he was utterly unprepared to answer any questions. He was thinking for whatever, I don't know why he thought that, but he was thinking for whatever reason, he was going to be able to get by this interview with, political talking points, tropes, and, swearing to Jesus that we have to protect Israel. Oh my God. It looks so ridiculous, right? It looks so ridiculous. It's unbelievable, right? So if he's the spokesperson for why America needs to get involved with Iran, he's the worst one ever, because the only good reason that he would have laid out would have been the assassination attempts on Donald Trump by Iran, and that for that reason he doesn't want to go to war with Iran. But for every other reason, all the reasons Israel says, he does. It's okay. Regime change, the whole thing. Okay. Look, here's the deal with the war in Iran, okay? America is going to do what it thinks it should do, right? And I wish the decision was completely up to Donald Trump, and I'm guessing in a way it kind of is. I don't think that the military, anybody in the military has the power to just go ahead without Donald Trump's blessing. So in the end, it probably is completely up to Donald Trump. But the fact is, he's in a catch-22 because he's being told different things by different people, right? So the way that they're going to get Donald Trump to go ahead and pull the trigger on going into Iran, whether it's boots on the ground or active military support or active bombings, which they'll do to this nuclear facility, I'm guessing, is going to be, look, Iran is on the verge of getting a nuke. Donald Trump does not want Iran to get a nuke. I don't want Iran getting a nuke, and I don't think anybody else does either, right? The people that are out there claiming, well, but it's only 60% uranium and not 90% uranium, and they agreed they're not going to, and and Tulsi Gabbard said they're not going to. Well, the thing is, what's weird is, obviously nukes are hideable because Israel claims to not have any nukes, and pretty much everybody on the planet knows that they do. So is there no way to verify that? You know what I mean? Apparently not. So apparently, based on that, if Israel can hide nukes from the world, so can Iran, right? And unfortunately, if I was Iran, I was trying to get a nuke for whatever reason, and I was being inspected by the whole world who was basically there to make sure I don't get a nuke, I would not do my nuke making shit where those people are. I would do that in an unknown location secretly. So is there any proof that Iran is doing that? Well, no, right? Because it's secret. But is it possible for them to keep that secret? I think it probably is. So either way, if Iran is really close to getting a nuke, then I would say the world is being done a favor getting rid of this nuclear capability. They shouldn't have a nuke, right? But that's about it, right? And just like we've heard this, they've got nukes and weapons of mass destruction, they're going to get them on the blah, 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 blah. We've heard that a lot of times. And we hear from Israel now, and Ted Cruz, right, that the goal is actually regime change, right? Which we all were worried about. We all thought, yeah, we've heard this nuke story before. But we know now from Israel that actually, no, it's the nukes, but we also want regime change. And so, yes, we're going to go after the nukes, but we're also going to fucking try to get rid of the mullahs, right? Okay, look, for the Iranian people, the mullahs probably suck, right? But getting rid of other people's governments is not our fucking business. That's the business of the people in those countries, right? I personally believe there will come a day in the West, in the next 20 years at most, where there will be an uprising by Western citizens against their Western governments. In some places, they're turning into tyrannies. In Europe, that's the case. In England, that's the case. You know what I mean? And if the Democrats had their way, it would be the case in America. At some point, the Western citizens are going to have to rise up against an ever more encroaching and pushing government, whether it be in America or in another Western country. It's going to happen. How many fucking people on the planet do you think is going to, how many governments do you think are going to come help the Western citizens topple their government? Probably nobody, right? That unfortunately is up to the citizens to rise up. It is not up to America or Germany or any other country for that matter to, against the will of their own people, go to topple a regime in another country for other people. If that's going to happen, right, I think that the people of the country should be asked through referendum. Do you want to spend taxpayer money and American lives, or whatever lives of whatever country is going to do it, right, on toppling a regime to free the people in that country? Yes or no? And the citizens should get to decide, right? That's it. That's the only way. And look, we've done this regime change shit a couple times here, and not one time, except for Ted Cruz's Soviet Union example, which was a fucking long time ago, not one time has it really worked out. Look at Afghanistan, look at Iraq, look at all these places, look at Libya, look at all of these places that also happen to be the places that Israel all want to get rid of, right? Okay, there happen to be places that are critical of Israel, that Israel is critical of, and all of them have regime changes, right? Worked out real great. Look, Ukraine, regime change. Didn't work out great. You know what I mean? Didn't work out great. So none of these regime change wars actually seem to work out perfectly at all. As a matter of fact, they work pretty shit. But the sad reality is, we don't, as citizens, have a voice in this. When it comes to this, when it comes to war, the governments are going to decide what to do without the blessing of the citizens every time. And the reason why is, first of all, they know things we don't know, and that they can't tell us when it comes to this kind of stuff. You know, that does suck, but that's the reality of the situation. I get that, okay? Second of all, you know, the simple fact is, if Donald Trump gets convinced that Iran is close to a nuke, he is going to do whatever he can do to make sure Iran doesn't get that nuke. I would support him there. I think that's probably the right thing to do, right? But all that really takes is, you know, firing a couple rockets on these nuclear facilities, taking them all out, and that's the end of it, right? That's the end of it. Then America's job is done. They don't need to go in with boots on the ground. They don't need to help Israel topple their regime of Iran. None of that shit. We'll see where it goes. I hope that if Donald Trump decides to get involved in this conflict, this time, it's a big roll of the dice for Trump, because in order for him to save face with the American people on this, the turnout of this fucking Iran thing has to be fucking amazing. I mean, there's going to have to be proof that they almost had nukes. They're going to have to share that proof with the people. There's going to have to be proof that the nuclear program is completely eliminated, that this made sense to do, right? And if they go as far as to make it a real war that lasts forever, well, the regime change that comes about better be fucking amazing. And there better be democracy in Iran for the people that live there. Because otherwise, this will be another war that made no sense, and that is not worth doing at all for the interest of America, right? Now, it just isn't. Fighting on Israel's behalf in every conflict they have is also not in America's interest. No matter what fucking Ted Cruz says, and no matter what God says in the Bible. Okay, Ted, go fuck yourself. Fucking, that's the most hypocritical, fucking emotional manipulation, guilt-tripping BS I've ever heard. Fuck you, Ted Cruz, really. What a dick. So, for us peons, right? For us peons, we will only be able to judge this war when it's over. Sadly. We can't prevent it from happening, right? We can't prevent America from getting involved in it. And all we can do is look at the outcome and judge it then. Because, of course, it is in the realm of possibilities that this one time, Israel isn't lying. Israel is right. They are on the verge of getting a nuke. I mean, time-wise, it makes sense. They've been probably trying for a long time. You know, in short, Maybe this is the one war that America gets itself involved in after World War II, right? That actually has an outcome of great benefit to American citizens, Israeli citizens, and Iranian citizens. Maybe it'll happen. It's going to have to happen, because that's the only outcome that will be acceptable to the people that support Donald Trump, right? And so we're just going to have to wait for it. People can go on Piers Morgan all day, every day, and debate it all fucking day, every day, until they're blue in the fucking face. They can protest it. They can do whatever the fuck they want. Nothing's going to change it. If Trump is convinced that Iran is close to a nuke, it's war, right? It's surprising that it's not already war, considering that they have 1,000% proof that there are active hitmen running around trying to kill Trump that are paid for by Iran. That is a declaration of war by Iran on America, and America shouldn't be so pussy then, and they should strike them hard, right? But none of those are the reasons we're being told that this, that's not because they're trying to assassinate Trump. It's not because of any of that shit. Nothing. It's about they're close to getting nukes, and that's a lie we've heard before. So, still though, if Donald Trump is convinced that's the case, those who support Donald Trump and those who elected him do so because we trust his judgment, right? So we gotta let him do his fucking job, okay? Yes, he promised no new wars. That's not a promise that he could actually make. They also promised to release the Epstein files. Found out later, goddamn, that's a promise we shouldn't have made because we really can't release this shit for whatever the reason is, right? By these promises, they've twisted themselves, backed themselves into a corner, and Trump shouldn't have promised it, because the situation has now changed, right? Because if it is true they are close to getting a nuke, I don't care if in the end, well, they weren't quite there yet. Well, eventually they're going to get there, so let's make sure they don't. That's my straight up opinion on that. But as far as the rest of the war goes, and I think there's going to be a rest. It sure looks like America is gearing up to get involved in this. And I don't think, hearing all the rhetoric from the Ted Cruzes and the Netanyahus and the Israel people and Ben Shapiro, I don't think it's going to be, all right, let's hit their nuke sites and let's pull out. That's not what it's looking like, okay? Because to me, that would be getting rid of the nukes, and then the problem is basically solved for America and for Israel. And yes, the people of Iran have a problem. They're going to have to get rid of that fucking crazy government by rising up against them. That's their problem, though. I'm sorry. That is their problem, right? So we're not going to be able to judge this. We're not going to be able to look and judge if it's going to be a good thing or a bad thing, and we can't predict it either, right? If you only look at history with America and regime changes, and you judge it by that only, well then this will be a disaster just like all the other things, and Donald Trump will have proven to the American citizens that no matter who you hire as the president, no matter who is in charge, the status quo and the warmongering is going to continue. If the war turns out good and benefits everybody involved except for the mullahs of Iran, then it's okay. You know what I'm saying? Then it's like, all right, well, no more nukes in Iran. The people of Iran have got a democratic government. Americans didn't lose their lives trying to get it done. And Israel is happy because there's a different regime in Iran. I guess that's a win-win-win-win. And then who could complain about that, right? But usually it doesn't go that way. So I hope for Donald Trump that this time it does. And I hope that the people in Texas elect a different senator this time around. Because Ted Cruz has proven that he is not capable of aggregating in the political climate of today, which means podcast, long-form interviews, answering tough questions, not politically BSing your way around the bush with it, you know what I'm saying, and actually having a real conversation. Trump can do it, you know what I'm saying? There's politicians that can do it. J.D. Vance can do it, you know what I'm saying? There's many, Tulsi Gabbard can do it. RFK can do it. There's a lot of politicians that can do it. Kash Patel and Dan Bongino used to be able to do it. They can't anymore. Now they can't handle it. Now they're on the team now. They're on the inside now. So, yeah. There's a difference between the status quo politicians and the people that actually want real change. Ted Cruz does not want actual real change. Ted Cruz is perfectly fine with Washington working the way it's working these days right now. You know what I'm saying? He's perfectly fine with it. That's the kind of politician he is. Like I said, they were raised up like that. You know, it's a certain age group of politicians that is just used to, you know, lie to get by, go along to get along, status quo. Yes, it's corrupt, but it's the way Washington plays. You know, it's excuse after excuse for the lobbying and the bullshit. So he's not a politician that wants change. A politician that wants change will lobby to end lobbying, for example, right? Will not allow themselves and their opinions to be controlled by those that pay them, right? Will stop the insider trading. Will stop the way it's going with war with everybody, you know what I'm saying, for whatever reason. Will stop pandering to the military-industrial complex. They will stop all those things. They will actually do work for the people. That's what the politician of today has to do. And those are only populists. The people rooted in their party politics, they're never going to be able to do it. Only populists can do it. Ted Cruz is not a populist. So Texas, I think Ted Cruz's days are over. If I were you, elect somebody else. The guy can't handle the heat in the kitchen. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. I can't change it. I'm sorry for Ted Cruz. Too bad. That's the way it works. His time is up. He's got to go out to pasture. It's over. That's all I got. So, as far as the war with Iran is concerned, let it ride, because you're not going to be able to change it anyway. So there's no reason to get pissed off about it. No reason to freak out about it. Just let Donald Trump do his fucking job and hope that this is the one war that's actually going to turn out as everybody predicts it's going to when they want to start it. Okay? We'll see. All right, guys. That's it for me for today. It's actually Friday. It's Friday the 21st. No, it's 20th of June, 2025. It is 4:30 p.m. here in Germany. This was the Insanity Report. Remember to like, subscribe, do all the reposting, retweeting, all the things to get my content out to other people. It doesn't cost you a penny, and it helps me a lot, so please do that. And we'll check you guys on Monday. See ya.